It's one of movies' greatest tropes, the idea of an audience sitting down to watch the life and adventures of a fellow member of mankind. Watch as they develop a nuclear warhead that may well set us all to destruction, or biops of musical heavyweights to sporting giants. But these films have so much marketing and identity behind the idea of the story being based on a true story. What if that notion is in itself fiction? What if audiences have been taken on a bit of a ride, and the truth behind the true story is actually so different the film should be classed as, well, more fiction than fact. So let's take a look through some films based on true stories where filmmakers have stretched the truth just a bit too far to get audiences into the big screens. Let's start with a big one, Braveheart. Braveheart is brilliant. Action-packed, heart-roaring speeches, humour and set pieces that stand the test of time. But oh my days does it take some liberties professing itself as a true historical epic. Now, there's only so much time in the day to go through all the historical inaccuracies of Braveheart. This would last longer than the film itself, this video. So, here are just a few extreme inaccuracies which take the Oscar-winning film away from what we could call a true story. Firstly, Braveheart was not even what Wallace was referred to, or called. This honour actually belonged to Robert the Bruce after his death. After Robert died, his friend James Douglas took the King's heart on a crusade to honour his dying wish. The crusading Scots only got as far as southern Spain fighting the Moors when they were surrounded with little hope of survival. The story is that James then threw the casket containing Bruce's heart towards the enemy, crying, "Onwards, Braveheart, Douglas shall follow thee or die." Speaking of Bruce, one of the iconic moments that seemed to leave an imprint on those who were learning Scottish history in the 90s and noughties from Braveheart was that Robert the Bruce betrayed Wallace. This isn't true at all, and it actually discredits the man to suggest it. There is a very detailed roll call of those who fought for the English during the Battle of Falkirk. While Bruce wasn't fighting on the Scots side, he wasn't against them either. Most historians, they actually conclude that Bruce was playing a longer game as opposed to an outright betrayal, hence his absence. Now, the Battle of Stirling Bridge in Braveheart is perhaps one of the most epic scenes, but my days it is not accurate. Given its name, it's pretty spectacular. Mel Gibson decided they didn't actually need a bridge in the film. This was William Wallace's most famous victory, and it was achieved by waiting for just the right amount of English army to cross the narrow bridge and then charging at them before they could form up. So while the film does use a depiction of spears until the climax of a charge, in reality, it was on a bridge and not a hillside. But credit must go to the film in Braveheart. Its realism that Gibson was able to bring out really showed just the brutality of medieval battle. It probably does so better than any other film. Even if the blue face paint is another director-inspired choice rather than historical fact, Braveheart does a great job of showing medieval battles in all its glory and savagery. Braveheart, it is a brilliant film, and has brought history to life and celebrates the life of one of history's greatest heroes. But as far as a true story, Braveheart certainly is not, or at least how it's depicted. So if you want a bit more accuracy for the real Braveheart, who took the English to the sword and claimed victory, consider Netflix's brilliant Outlaw King and see Robert the Bruce, the true Braveheart, free Scotland from those tyrannical Englishmen. Next up, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of cinema's most terrifying concepts and villains. But that's all it is, a concept. So no, there never was a real-life Leatherface. The film does begin with a title card saying that the movie is based on a true story. Famously, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not in any way based on a true story. Though some inspiration for the Leatherface's character does come from a real-life killer. This was a man called Ed Gein. Gein made clothing and other household wares from taxidermied human remains. But every other detail in this movie is fictional. So no, you don't have to worry about running into Leatherface if you're exploring Texas on a hot summer's evening. The Blind Side, a recent addition to such a list. The Blind Side was a huge commercial and critical success, bringing home a famous Oscar win for Sandra Bullock. The Blind Side that came out in 2009, it was an instant hit. The film was based on the 2006 Michael Lewis book of the same name, and it told the story of Michael Oher, an offensive lineman who was adopted by Leanne and Sean Toohey, a white family from Mississippi. In the movie, the Tooheys take in Oher, who's homeless and portrayed as a quiet and slow learner in education and football. The Blind Side went on to gross an incredible $309 million at the box office back in 2009, and Sandra Bullock won an Academy Award for Best Actress. But as recently as August 2023, things started to unravel for this once heartwarming, true story. Since the film's release, Oher has contested his accuracy. He says he was a good student once he had access to a consistent education, and he'd studied football since he was a kid. Oher would go on to say, "I feel like it betrayed me as dumb instead of as a kid who had never had a consistent academic instruction and ended up thriving once he got it. Quinton Aaron did a great job acting the part, but I cannot figure out why the director chose to show me as someone who had to be taught the game of football." So in August 2023, Oher filed a lawsuit claiming the toys didn't actually adopt him, but rather created a conservatorship. As a result, he alleges while they made serious money from the film, he was left completely blindsided, as the saying would go. So, if his claims are true, we should give him the right to say so now. It seems Hollywood had the Academy and audiences along for a ride with the heartwarming true story of kind folk helping a struggling kid who struggled mentally reach the heights of American sport. It certainly will be an interesting one to watch how this all plays out from the sidelines, and see if the truth really is in The Blind Side, or whether it was just another Hollywood fabrication. Catch me if you can. One of Spielberg's and DiCaprio's best, but it's the role of Tom Hanks that takes away any true nature to the famous cat and mouse element that runs through this film. Tom Hanks' FBI agent, Carl Hanratty, he didn't actually exist. Instead, the character was actually a combination of multiple agents who followed Leonardo DiCaprio's lead through his many careers in con artistry. Argo. Essentially, in this true story, the USA completely shafts Canada. Ben Affleck's movie about a CIA team filming a fake movie in Iran to rescue hostages completely ignores Canada's significant contributions to the rescue mission.
What say you, Mr. American Ambassador? Fuck Canada! Fuck you!
Funnily enough, for a long time the United States actually gave Canada all the credit for the rescue, because they didn't actually want the CIA's involvement to become public knowledge. The movie, however, swings completely in the opposite direction, by not only giving the US their due, but taking away that of their northern neighbours. And much like most truth behind stories, there wasn't much excitement in reality, and the plan went pretty smoothly without a hitch. So well done, Canada. Job well done. Hopefully Hollywood will acknowledge your role in it one day. Now, as you'd expect, a few Disney films do also crop up in looking into what is really true behind a true story. Pocahontas for sure. Pocahontas' real name was actually Matoka. Pocahontas was a nickname. It means playful one, or little brat. And there is no proof of a relationship with John Smith, which is kind of thankful given her age at the time being 10 to 11. And to wrap it up, you have Captain Phillips.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
A superb hostage drama, but one where the heroics, or in particular the hubris of the lead, perhaps wasn't shown to the levels it probably deserved. Crew members from the ship levelled accusations that the real Phillips isn't much of a hero at all, and that no one wants to sail with him. According to crewmates, they claim Phillips practically invited the hijacking by ignoring safety protocols and sailing too close to the coast. In fact, there are email chains that show the nonchalant and danger Captain Phillips put his crew under, and the whole scenario should have been avoided from the off. So that's just a selection of films that are by no means bad films, but perhaps need to remove the tagline of being a true story. For the truth behind most of these stories doesn't do justice to some of the characters, or in some cases, will make their story probably one for a straight to DVD release. And it's fair to say, these days, that's not very Hollywood.